really to have a working meeting and the audience or the recipients of the information, and really those that we're focusing on are the town leaders. So town and county leaders. So appreciate those that came here today, and obviously city as well. Talk about all the municipalities here in Columbia County. Deeply appreciate the industry being here because we need to forge that partnership to move forward. And you know, the focus point, obviously, reliability, mapping, and build out. Reliability, mapping, and build out. And you know, part of the issue has been, at least up until fairly recently, has been definitional. We have a federal definition for high-speed broadband, 4 megabyte per second download and 1 megabyte per second upload. I mean, that's our federal definition for high-speed broadband. So clearly, as we look across all the build-out possibilities, we know which ones hit that target and which ones don't. But we can engage with the providers, always striving for a better day. I mean, to this audience here, I think everyone here understands how critical it is to build out this capability. It's obviously very important to job creation. We have small business owners all throughout the county, and some of which have access to high-speed broadband, others do not. And the ability to have streaming video, to be able to upload, to be able to advertise, to be able to take sales over the internet, vitally important to their business. And you know, you even look across the agricultural dimension of our economy, and you listen to our farmers, and they'll tell you how important it is as well. So for job creation, it's also important for health. You know, particularly I think as we start to rationalize the healthcare delivery system, and you know, I think we'll end up with more urgent care facilities, basically the ability for clinics to connect with hospitals in the built-up area so that they can get real-time feedback on any kind of testing, images that they may have. There has to have this, we have to have this access to the high-speed broadband. You know, education. In many cases now, schools have the capacity for high-speed broadband, but when students go home, they're expected to work on assignments, and at the home they don't have access to high-speed broadband. So we want to continue to seek perfection on this. So I appreciate folks being here today. Again, the purpose of which is to have a working meeting. That's why we want to have an opportunity for questions as we go along. And you know, I want to introduce now the Vice Chair of the Board of Supervisors and a supervisor from Livingston, Kevin McDonald. Thank you.
I don't think I need this either, but on behalf of Chairman Bratton, who unfortunately was unable to attend this, I'd like to thank Congressman Gibson for putting this together. I think it's much needed. There's a lot of information out there that some of it's good, some of it's bad, and you know, I appreciate the cable providers, you know, for being here also. But without further ado, I think we should get moving on with this because I'm sure there's a lot of questions to be asked. So thank you.
Good.
Thank you very much. I believe Dave Salway is going to make a presentation on for the New York State Broadband Program Office. David. And then we can just keep rolling with the program.
Great.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you again, Congressman, for another great event and another opportunity to kind of get everybody up to date on what we've been doing at the state level and some of the initiatives that we've already begun, some that are still going to be underway. And I'm going to do a brief intro, and then my colleague Bob Garrett, Director of the Mapping Office, is going to go into some of the more details on the mapping. So I'm going to go through some of this a little quickly in the beginning because I think this audience knows more than most what the benefits of broadband are. And thank you to Congressman Gibson again for not only organizing the event, but for being a great partner for us on the broadband side. Restored funding for USDA and RUS funding when we know it's going to be in jeopardy as well. Let me start a little brief presentation on broadband. I'm going to go through the value proposition for what broadband brings us, the update on broadband in New York, and some of the current initiatives that we currently have underway. When we talk about high-speed internet and broadband access, as the Congressman already mentioned, talking about a high-speed connection that's always on, just to get everybody the same definition that we use throughout our report and some of the terms we're going to be using today. We have two different types of technologies. It's wireline and wireless. Wireline, you can see the different technologies that we use there. On the wireless side, mobile broadband, we have fixed wireless, satellite, and new technology called white space as well, which is an exciting technology that some of our rural areas are also taking a look at and examining too. We know that today the needs of the internet needs of the common family are now changing. It used to be we had one connection, used the computer for doing certain things, but everybody is involved with that. I have teenage kids, and I think they use it more than I. They have, gaming, and they also use it for their homework. They use it for music downloads. They use it for continuously, the new applications that are coming out. So the needs, the bandwidth needs, and the speed requirements are also increasing as we go on as well. It's a moving target. As Congressman Gibson mentioned, the current definition on the federal level is 4 megs down and 1 up. That's likely to probably change in the next couple of years as we see more applications coming out and the speed requirements getting higher. So it is a moving target in a sense when we talk about broadband in general. Speed threshold is currently, like we mentioned, 4 megs down and 1 megs up. The applications that we are currently seeing for particularly telemedicine, some of the high-intensive bandwidth applications like remote education, video conferencing, and using video conferencing for things like judicial hearings and for prisons and so forth are actually becoming more common as well, and so are the bandwidth requirements at the same time. There is a national broadband plan goal that President Obama has put forward to have 100 million homes with access to download speeds of 100 meg per second, which obviously is considerably higher than what we currently have. And you can see some of the different technologies and some of those that they bring as well. And also, just to mention it now, this chart actually comes out of our annual report that we publish every year and deliver to the governor and the legislature. We have copies today if anyone's interested, and it's also available on our website too. There's a lot of information or up-to-date mapping information from Bob's office is in there, and there's a lot of other facts and updates on broadband in New York as well. When you talk about economic benefits, which is part of the reason why my office moved from the Office for Technology to the Empire State Development Agency, which is our economic development agency for the state, is because broadband facilitates so many economic initiatives. We look at some of the stats, and there's lots of formulas out there in terms of what broadband can bring to local communities, how they can spur economic development. Any number of these are impressive enough to know that broadband is a big facilitator for all these initiatives. One of the ones that stands out when we talk about the employment rate in particular is the fact that 80% of Fortune 500 companies, they only allow applicants to apply online. So if you don't have a job and you're looking to get a job with a company that's Fortune 500 or probably a normal business in this day and age, you need the internet to actually apply and even know if the job's available. The other formula of note is the last one on there too. It's every dollar spent online is an additional $3.45. So you're talking about broadband facilitating local purchases as well, even though sometimes those purchases are purchased at a global level. As the Congressman touched on as well, the needs of the different sectors are also growing. And formerly sectors like agriculture, you wouldn't think that was a high technology user. There are increasingly more and more applications. Now it's almost a must-have in a lot of cases to stay competitive, using things like precision farming, where there's a GPS application that you can actually see the crops and be able to estimate yields and know what type of supplies you need. It's a very, very highly technological applications that actually run and use agricultural, they use in the agricultural sector. Education, distance learning, and online textbooks are also the norm in this day and age. Healthcare, again, touched on by the Congressman as well, those bandwidth requirements are even more intensive, having to transmit different diagnostic testing and x-ray and so forth. They're very high bandwidth intensive applications. And most recently, the public safety network, which you probably heard about as well, there's going to be several $1 billion worth of funding available on the federal level for the public safety network. And again, when we talk about all the needs of all these sectors, we're still talking about one network. So we can, if we build it right and we consider all the needs of the different sectors, we can build one network to support the needs for all the various sectors. what we know in New York, just to give a quick update on some of the stats that we've been collecting, and Chippy from Bob's office in cybersecurity and all the mapping, we know that there's a digital divide. Basically, those that have and can access broadband and those that cannot. And there's two different factors when we talk about the divide. It's on the availability side, physical access, how if you can access broadband internet from where you live or where you work. We know that about 700,000 New Yorkers do not have access, and that translates to about 325,000 households. I'll go into a little more specific, and Bob will go into some more details as well for what that means in this particular area. But that's almost 1 million people in New York that don't have broadband, which is more than the whole population of Vermont. So to put it in perspective like that, our percentages are rather high when you look at overall availability. The numbers do tell a pretty startling picture in terms of who does not have access. On the other side of the equation is adoption. It's even if you have broadband and you can access it, it's those that choose to access it or have barriers in the way that prevents them from accessing it. And there's primarily 3 different reasons why subscribers do not access the internet. I'm going to go into them in just a second in the next slide or two. Our overall adoption rate in the state is about 70%. So that translates to about 6 million users that choose not to or cannot access it for various reasons. When we look at a solution to both, we're talking about solving the access problem, making sure that every community can connect to broadband. Make sure that we also keep in mind the institutional requirements, the needs of the educational institutions, the businesses that need broadband to use, to actually run their programs. We need it for public safety. We need a lot of other needs that are high speed, not necessarily just having physical access, but also keeping pace with the high speed requirements as well. And finally, making broadband affordable, which is one of the barriers, and providing digital literacy training as well for those that cannot or don't know how to